Some chains are made of metal. Others are made of promises that refuse to die. Ryan Carter has learned the difference years ago, though he does not know it yet on the gray October morning when his phone begins to ring. The call comes from the county property office just after 7 o'clock. A neglected house sits at the edge of a forgotten road outside a small coastal town in North Carolina. The owner has not been seen in months. Neighbors have complained about strange noises and a dog left behind. Ryan is not a police officer. He is not animal control. He is simply a former U.S. Marine who now volunteers with local rescue groups whenever they need an extra pair of hands. Most calls are simple. This one does not feel simple. A cold wind rolls in from the Atlantic as his pickup truck travels down the narrow gravel road. Pine trees sway overhead. Fallen leaves scrape across the ground like dry whispers. A house appears through the mist nearly half an hour later. It sits alone behind an overgrown yard, its faded white paint peeling beneath years of salt air and rain. Ryan kills the engine and listens. Silence. No voices. No movement. Just the distant cry of gulls somewhere beyond the trees. Then he hears it. The faint clink of metal. He steps through the tall grass toward the porch. The smell reaches him first. Damp wood. Rust. Wet earth. Beneath the sagging roof of the front porch lies a muscular brown pit bull. A heavy chain stretches from the dog's collar to an iron post bolted into the concrete. Ryan stops several feet away. The dog lifts his head slowly. Their eyes meet. Ryan expects fear. He expects aggression. Instead, he sees something that unsettles him far more. Patience. The animal looks tired, but not broken. Thin, but not defeated. As though he has been waiting for something. Or someone. Ryan crouches carefully. "Easy, buddy," he says softly. The pit bull watches him without moving. A bowl sits nearby, nearly empty except for rainwater and leaves. Ryan removes a bottle of water from his backpack and slowly refills it. The dog drinks for nearly a minute without taking his eyes off Ryan. Then something strange happens. Ryan notices the chain hanging loose. The metal collar remains secured, but one of the old links farther down has broken long ago. The dog could have left at any time. Days ago. Weeks ago. Maybe months ago. Yet he remains exactly where he is. Ryan stands and studies the property. Every instinct tells him something is wrong. The front door hangs slightly open. One upstairs window is shattered. Curtains drift softly behind dusty glass. The entire place feels abandoned. Except for the dog. The pit bull suddenly rises to his feet. His ears become alert. He turns toward the dark interior of the house. Ryan follows his gaze. The dog takes 3 steps toward the doorway before the chain reaches its limit. Metal rattles sharply against concrete. Then the animal looks back at Ryan. Not pleading. Not frightened. Waiting. As though he has spent countless days hoping someone would finally understand what he has been trying to say. A chill moves down Ryan's spine despite the morning sun beginning to break through the clouds. Because for the first time since arriving, he realizes the dog is not guarding the house. The dog is guarding a secret hidden somewhere inside it. The pit bull does not take his eyes off the house. Ryan notices it every time he glances back toward the porch. The dog is not watching the road. He is not watching the trees. His attention remains fixed on the dark opening beyond the front door as though something inside still matters. The wind pushes through the broken boards beneath Ryan's boots as he steps onto the porch. The old wood creaks softly. Dust hangs in the air. He pauses at the doorway and listens. Nothing. No voices. No footsteps. No sign that anyone has lived here recently. Yet the feeling of abandonment does not fully fit. Something feels unfinished. Ryan pushes the door open wider. The scent of stale air and old wood drifts into the hallway. Sunlight slips through dirty windows and stretches across the floor in pale strips. Furniture remains exactly where it belongs. A worn couch sits against one wall. Family photographs hang crooked above a fireplace. A coffee mug still rests on a side table covered in dust. Most abandoned houses look empty. This house looks interrupted. As though someone stood up in the middle of an ordinary day and never returned. Ryan moves carefully from room to room. The kitchen contains unopened mail stacked beside a faded fruit bowl. A calendar hangs on the wall. The last date marked with a pen is nearly 10 months old. In the dining room, a thin layer of dust covers everything except one chair. Ryan kneels beside it. The dust there appears disturbed. Not recently. But more recently than anywhere else in the house. He files the detail away without understanding why. Outside, the chain rattles softly. The sound carries through the open windows. Ryan finds himself strangely comforted by it. Eventually he returns to the front porch. The pit bull immediately stands. His tail remains still, but his posture changes. Alert. Focused. Waiting. Ryan crouches beside him. The broken chain link lies half buried in the dirt nearby. You could have left, Ryan says quietly. Nobody would have stopped you. The dog simply stares at him. Then he turns his head toward the interior of the house once again. Ryan follows the gaze. A thought begins forming in the back of his mind. He walks inside a second time. This time he pays attention to where the dog's eyes always settle. The hallway. The staircase. The rear bedroom. Every path seems to point in the same direction. The room sits at the far end of the house. Its door hangs partially open. Ryan pushes it gently. Dust swirls through a beam of sunlight streaming from a cracked window. The bedroom appears untouched. A dresser. A lamp. An old mattress resting on a metal frame. Nothing unusual. Nothing obvious. Yet something pulls at him. He circles the room slowly. The silence feels heavier here. Then he notices a faint indentation in the carpet beside the bed. Not fresh. Not recent. But different from the rest of the room. As though someone spent a long time kneeling there years ago. Ryan turns toward the mattress. Outside, the chain suddenly rattles harder than before. Once. Twice. 3 times. The sound echoes through the house. Ryan freezes. The pit bull has barely made a sound since he arrived. Yet now the chain continues moving. Not frantic. Not fearful. Intentional. Ryan walks to the window overlooking the porch. The dog stands facing the bedroom window directly below him. Their eyes meet across the yard. For a long moment neither moves. Then the pit bull lets out a single bark. It is the first sound Ryan has heard from him all morning. And somehow it feels less like a warning than an invitation. Ryan remains motionless beside the bedroom window long after the bark fades into silence. The sound lingers in the house like an unfinished sentence. Outside, the dog continues watching him from the porch. There is no panic in the animal's posture. No aggression. Only certainty. The kind of certainty that makes Ryan uncomfortable because it feels as though the dog already knows something he does not. A gust of wind slips through the cracked window and stirs the dusty curtains. Ryan turns back toward the mattress. The room suddenly feels smaller. Quieter. The old metal bed frame groans softly as he places a hand against it. Dust coats the faded fabric. Years seem trapped inside every corner of the room. He kneels beside the bed and studies the floor again. The indentation in the carpet catches his attention. Somebody had spent time here. A lot of time. Not standing. Kneeling. Waiting. Thinking. The feeling settles heavily in his chest. Ryan grips the edge of the mattress and slowly lifts it. At first he sees nothing. Only stained fabric and rusted metal springs. Then a small corner of yellowed paper becomes visible beneath the frame. His pulse quickens. Carefully, he reaches inside. The envelope feels brittle with age. Dust falls from its edges as he pulls it free. No stamp. No address. Just a single word written across the front in faded black ink. Sorry. Ryan stares at it for several seconds. The house remains silent around him. Even the wind seems to pause. He slowly opens the envelope. Inside rests a folded letter. The paper crackles as he unfolds it. The handwriting is neat but uneven in places, as though the writer's hand had trembled while finishing it. Ryan begins reading. To whoever finds this, I am sorry. Those are the first words. His eyes continue moving down the page. The writer speaks of exhaustion. Regret. Mistakes that cannot be undone. Missed opportunities. Broken relationships. Yet something about the letter feels different from what Ryan expected. It is not angry. It is not bitter. It reads more like a confession from someone carrying a weight too heavy to bear alone. Outside, the chain rattles once. Ryan glances toward the window. The dog has not moved. He returns to the letter. Several paragraphs later, a sentence makes him stop completely. There is something I never told my son. Ryan reads the line again. Then a third time. The room suddenly feels colder. The mention of a son changes everything. This is no longer just a letter. It is a message. A final attempt to reach someone who may never have received it. Ryan continues reading. The writer apologizes repeatedly. He speaks of fear. Of shame. Of believing that certain truths would only cause more pain. Yet nowhere on the page does he explain what those truths are. Ryan reaches the bottom expecting answers. Instead, he finds only more questions. The final paragraph ends abruptly. Not with a farewell. Not with a signature. The sentence simply stops in the middle of a thought. Ryan turns the page over. Blank. He searches the envelope. Nothing else. No second sheet. No explanation. Just the unfinished letter. A chill crawls across the back of his neck. He looks around the bedroom once more. Something is wrong. Not just with the house. Not just with the letter. The story feels incomplete. Then his eyes land on a faded family photograph resting inside a dusty frame atop the dresser. A man. A woman. And a young boy no older than 8. Ryan walks toward it slowly. The moment he picks it up, his breath catches. Because standing beside the family is the same pit bull waiting outside on the porch. Only younger. Much younger. And if the date written in the corner of the photograph is correct, that picture was taken nearly 10 years ago. Ryan carries the photograph downstairs as the afternoon light slowly shifts across the abandoned house. Dust drifts through the air like tiny floating memories. Outside, the pit bull remains on the porch exactly where he has been all morning. The sight unsettles Ryan even more now. 10 years. The date written on the photograph is clear. If the picture is genuine, then the dog in the frame and the dog outside are the same animal. Older now. Thinner. Scarred by time rather than hardship. Yet unmistakably the same. Ryan steps onto the porch holding the frame. The moment the dog sees it, something changes. His ears lift. His eyes lock onto the photograph. He slowly rises to his feet. Ryan crouches beside him and turns the image outward. The dog studies it for several seconds before lowering his head. The reaction is subtle. No barking. No excitement. Yet it feels deeply personal. Like recognition. Like grief. Ryan looks back at the smiling family frozen inside the faded picture. The father appears to be in his 40s. Broad shoulders. Kind eyes. A man who once looked hopeful. Beside him stands a woman with one hand resting on a young boy's shoulder. The child cannot be older than 8. Everyone is smiling except the dog. The pit bull is staring directly into the camera as though aware that one day someone would be searching for answers. A cool breeze passes through the trees. Ryan notices a small engraving on the frame's edge. Initials. DM. He files them away. Then he reaches for his phone. The signal is weak but usable. A few searches later produce scattered public records. Property ownership. Tax documents. Utility records. The house belongs to a man named Daniel Mercer. Ryan studies the name. DM. The initials match. More records follow. Daniel Mercer lived here for years. Divorced. 1 child. No recent activity. Then the trail abruptly ends. No death certificate. No confirmed relocation. No official explanation for his disappearance. It is as though Daniel Mercer simply stepped out of his life and vanished. Ryan lowers the phone. The letter suddenly feels heavier in his pocket. A suicide note normally points toward an ending. Yet nothing about this story feels finished. The missing signature bothers him. The unfinished final sentence bothers him. Most of all, the timeline bothers him. If Daniel wrote the letter nearly 10 years ago, why is the house still standing untouched? Why did nobody remove the belongings? Why is the dog still here? The questions circle endlessly through Ryan's mind. He returns inside and begins searching more carefully. Drawers. Cabinets. Closets. Most contain ordinary items left behind by ordinary lives. Old receipts. Family photographs. Children's drawings. Then, inside a desk drawer in the living room, Ryan discovers a stack of unopened envelopes. The top one catches his attention immediately. It is addressed to Daniel Mercer. The postmark is only 8 months old. Ryan freezes. 8 months. Not 10 years. 8 months. Somebody was still sending mail here recently. His pulse quickens. He sorts through the pile. Every envelope carries the same return address from a city nearly 300 miles away in Tennessee. None have been opened. None appear damaged. One envelope contains a handwritten note visible through a small tear in the paper. Ryan can only make out a few words. Dad. Please call me. He stares at the message for a long moment. Outside, the chain rattles softly once again. Ryan slowly looks toward the porch. The dog is already watching him. Waiting. As though he has known all along that the house contains far more than a goodbye letter. As though the real story has only just begun. The afternoon slowly fades toward evening as Ryan sits on the front porch steps with the stack of unopened letters resting beside him. The air smells of pine needles, damp earth, and distant salt carried inland from the Atlantic. Across the yard, the pit bull lies quietly beneath the sagging porch roof. The dog appears calmer now, as though each discovery brings Ryan one step closer to something that has waited years to be found. Ryan picks up the most recent envelope again. The paper is worn but intact. The return address belongs to a small town outside Nashville, Tennessee. He carefully opens it. Inside rests a folded sheet of notebook paper. The handwriting immediately catches his attention. Younger. Less steady. Personal. Dear Dad, I know you probably will not read this either. Those are the first words. Ryan continues reading. The writer explains that he has sent letters for years without receiving a response. Birthdays passed. Holidays came and went. Phone calls were never returned. Yet. The letters never stopped. The words carry sadness but not anger. Hope still lingers between the lines. The writer describes graduating high school. Starting college. Finding a job. Building a life. All the milestones a parent should witness. At the bottom appears a name. Ethan Mercer. Ryan reads it twice. The child from the photograph now has a name. He checks the postmark again. 8 months ago. Ethan was still trying to reach his father less than a year earlier. Ryan lowers the letter and stares across the yard. The pit bull lifts his head slightly. Their eyes meet. You know him, do not you? Ryan asks softly. The dog remains still. Yet somehow the silence feels like an answer. As the sun sinks lower, Ryan continues sorting through the remaining letters. Most are from Ethan. Some are years old. Others are recent. One envelope contains a graduation announcement. Another includes photographs of a young man standing beside a pickup truck. Ryan studies the image carefully. The resemblance to Daniel Mercer is unmistakable. The same eyes. The same jawline. Time has transformed the child from the family photograph into a grown man. Then Ryan discovers something unexpected. Tucked inside the oldest envelope is a second photograph. The image shows Ethan as a teenager sitting on a porch beside the pit bull. The dog appears younger but identical. On the back of the photograph, Ethan has written a short message. Me and Duke. Summer before Mom moved away. Ryan looks up sharply. Duke. For the first time, the dog has a name. He walks across the porch and kneels beside him. Duke, he says quietly. The reaction is immediate. The dog's ears rise. His tail taps softly against the wooden boards. Once. Twice. Recognition. Ryan feels a knot tighten in his chest. 10 years. Somehow Duke has remained connected to this family through all of it. Through absence. Through unanswered letters. Through silence. The evening shadows stretch longer across the yard. Ryan gathers the photographs and letters into a neat pile. His mind keeps returning to one question. If Ethan spent years trying to contact Daniel, why did none of these letters ever leave the house? Why were they sitting unopened? In a drawer? The answer seems obvious at first. Daniel ignored them. But the unfinished note upstairs continues bothering him. So does the missing ending. So does the fact that nobody has officially confirmed what happened to Daniel Mercer. Ryan stands and slips the letters into his backpack. Tomorrow he will drive to Tennessee. He needs answers. As he turns toward his truck, a sudden metallic sound stops him. Duke is standing. The old chain hangs loose beside him. Slowly, deliberately, the dog begins walking toward the far corner of the yard. Then he stops beside an overgrown tool shed hidden behind thick weeds. Ryan follows his gaze. The weathered wooden door hangs slightly open. And for the first time since arriving at the property, Duke begins to growl softly at something inside. The low growl continues as evening settles over the property. Ryan has not heard that sound from Duke before. It is not loud. It is not threatening. It feels more like a warning directed at a memory than a person. The old dog stands motionless near the tool shed, his eyes fixed on the narrow opening between the weathered doors. The last light of day paints the yard in shades of gold and shadow. Ryan approaches carefully. Tall weeds brush against his jeans. The scent of damp wood and rust grows stronger with every step. Duke remains behind him now, watching. Waiting. The shed is small, no larger than 10 feet by 12. Its roof sags beneath years of neglect. One window is covered by a sheet of plywood. The door creaks softly as Ryan pushes it open. Dust immediately rises into the air. Garden tools lean against one wall. Empty paint cans sit beneath shelves crowded with forgotten boxes. Nothing appears unusual. Yet Ryan understands why Duke brought him here. The dog has led him to every important clue so far. This place is no exception. He sweeps a flashlight across the interior. Cobwebs glisten in the fading light. A lawn mower occupies one corner. Several storage bins sit stacked near the back wall. Then Ryan notices something strange. The floor beneath the shelves appears cleaner than the rest of the shed. Not recently cleaned. Just less weathered. Less exposed. He kneels and examines the boards more closely. A rectangular outline becomes visible beneath years of dust. The shape is subtle but unmistakable. Something heavy sat here for a very long time. Something that is no longer present. Ryan carefully moves the nearest storage bin. Then another. Finally he pulls the bottom shelf away from the wall. Behind it rests a small metal lockbox. His pulse quickens immediately. The box is old but intact. A thin layer of dust covers its surface. No lock remains attached. Ryan lifts the lid. Inside he finds several documents wrapped in a plastic sleeve. Beneath them sits a small notebook. The first page contains only a name. Daniel Mercer. Ryan exhales slowly. He carries everything back to the porch where the remaining sunlight still reaches the steps. Duke lies nearby, watching quietly. Ryan opens the notebook first. The entries span several years. Most describe ordinary life. Work schedules. Home repairs. Family memories. Then the tone begins to change. The writing grows heavier. More personal. Daniel writes about losing contact with his son after the divorce. He writes about shame. About believing he had failed as a father. Yet one detail immediately stands out. Several entries are dated months after the unfinished letter hidden beneath the mattress. Ryan reads the dates again to be certain. There is no mistake. Daniel was still alive after writing that letter. Much later. Ryan turns pages faster now. Then he reaches an entry that stops him cold. I never mailed the letter. The sentence sits alone on the page. Nothing before it matters. Nothing after it matters. Ryan stares at the words while the evening wind rustles through the trees. The letter was never delivered. It was never meant to be found beneath that mattress. Something changed. Something happened after Daniel wrote it. Ryan flips to the next page. Several lines have been torn away. The missing section leaves a jagged edge across the paper. He continues reading. More pages are missing. Entire sections have vanished. Whatever explanation Daniel recorded is gone. Ryan lowers the notebook slowly. Duke rises to his feet beside him. The old dog presses against Ryan's leg for a brief moment. It is the first physical contact he has initiated. Ryan places a hand on the dog's head. Neither of them notices the final folded document sliding from the notebook onto the porch boards until a gust of wind unfolds it. Across the top of the page, written in bold letters, are 3 words that instantly change everything. Legal name change request. Ryan reads the document beneath the porch light as darkness settles across the property. Duke remains beside him, unusually calm now, as though the old dog recognizes the paper. The request form is incomplete but official. Court records. Filing instructions. Signatures. Dates. Everything points to one truth. Daniel Mercer had planned to become someone else. Ryan studies every line carefully. The proposed new name is partially obscured by water damage, but enough remains visible to raise questions. Why would a man preparing to end his life also prepare to change his identity? The 2 paths lead in opposite directions. One ends everything. The other begins again. The contradiction follows Ryan deep into the night. He sleeps only a few hours before loading his truck at sunrise. Tennessee waits nearly 600 miles away. So does Ethan Mercer. Duke climbs into the passenger seat without hesitation. For the first time since Ryan found him, the old dog seems willing to leave the property behind. The chain remains hanging from the porch post. Empty. Motionless. Forgotten. The highway stretches across rolling hills and endless summer skies. Hours pass beneath the hum of tires and the distant songs of country radio stations drifting through small towns. Ryan drives while pieces of the mystery turn endlessly inside his mind. The unfinished letter. The missing notebook pages. The name change request. None of it fits together. Yet Duke watches the road ahead with quiet focus, his gray muzzle resting near the window. As if he knows they are finally heading toward the answer. Near sunset they arrive outside Knoxville. Ethan's return address from the letters leads them to a modest neighborhood lined with maple trees and brick homes. Children ride bicycles along sidewalks. Sprinklers click softly across green lawns. The place feels ordinary. Peaceful. Ryan parks at the curb and studies the address one final time. Then he walks toward the front door. Duke follows close behind. The door opens before Ryan can knock twice. A man in his early 30s stands there. His eyes immediately move past Ryan. Straight to the dog. Everything changes in a single second. The color drains from his face. His breathing stops. The coffee mug in his hand slips and shatters across the porch. Duke freezes. Ethan does not speak. Neither does Ryan. For several heartbeats, nobody moves. Then Duke takes one slow step forward. His tail begins to tremble. Not wag. Tremble. Ethan drops to his knees. Tears appear before words ever do. Duke. The name leaves his mouth like a prayer he stopped believing would be answered. The old dog crosses the distance between them. Slowly. Carefully. Years seem to fall away with every step. Ethan wraps his arms around Duke's neck and buries his face against the aging dog's fur. Ryan looks away, giving them privacy that neither notices. The evening air carries the scent of fresh-cut grass and distant rain. Somewhere a wind chime sings softly. Ethan finally rises several minutes later. His eyes remain fixed on Duke. Where did you find him? Ryan explains everything. The house. The chain. The letter. The notebook. The hidden documents. Ethan listens without interruption. Then Ryan mentions Daniel Mercer. Ethan's expression changes immediately. Confusion replaces emotion. That is impossible, he says quietly. Ryan studies him. Why? Ethan looks toward the darkening sky. Because my father called me 3 years ago. Silence settles between them. Ryan feels it before he understands it. Ethan swallows hard. He did not use the name Daniel anymore. He told me never to look for him. He said it was safer that way. Ryan feels the ground shift beneath the entire story. Ethan opens the front door wider. Come inside, he says. There is something you need to see. On the living room wall hangs a framed photograph taken only 3 years earlier. Standing beside Ethan is an older man with gray hair, tired eyes, and a familiar smile. The same smile from the family photograph hidden beneath the mattress. The photograph remains in Ryan's hands long after Ethan finishes speaking. The man standing beside Ethan is older than the father from the faded family picture, but there is no doubt. The same eyes. The same posture. The same gentle smile that seems permanently touched by sadness. Duke sits beneath the frame, staring upward as if he has already known the truth for years. Ethan disappears into another room and returns carrying a weathered storage box. Dust covers the lid. The cardboard edges have softened with age. He mailed this to me 6 months after our last phone call, Ethan says quietly. I never knew what to do with it. Ryan places the photograph on the table while Ethan opens the box. Inside are dozens of papers, old receipts, letters, and photographs. Most appear ordinary. Then Ethan removes a large envelope. The sight of it sends a chill through Ryan immediately. The handwriting matches the unfinished letter from beneath the mattress. Daniel's handwriting. Ethan carefully unfolds the contents. Several pages slide onto the table. Ryan notices something instantly. Jagged edges run along one side of the pages. The same jagged edges from the notebook. The missing pages. They had not disappeared after all. Daniel had mailed them to his son. Ethan begins reading silently. His expression changes with every paragraph. Confusion gives way to disbelief. Then sorrow. Then something else. Relief. Quiet, trembling relief. Ryan waits without speaking. The room fills with silence broken only by the ticking of a wall clock and the soft breathing of Duke sleeping at Ethan's feet. Finally, Ethan passes the pages across the table. Ryan reads. Years earlier, after the divorce and financial collapse that followed, Daniel had fallen into despair. The unfinished letter beneath the mattress had been written during the worst night of his life. A night when he believed his son would be better without him. But according to the missing pages, something interrupted that decision. Not a person. Not a phone call. Duke. Daniel described waking before dawn to find the dog lying beside him. The old pit bull refused to leave his side. Refused to eat. Refused to move. Daniel wrote that every time he closed his eyes, Duke nudged his hand until he opened them again. The behavior continued for hours. Then for days. Eventually Daniel abandoned his plan entirely. He sold what little remained, left town, changed his name legally, and started over hundreds of miles away. Ryan turns another page. The final section explains everything. Daniel never contacted Ethan because he believed debt collectors and legal disputes connected to his failed business would eventually reach anyone associated with him. He chose distance instead of risk. He thought he was protecting his son. The choice was misguided. Painful. But never malicious. Ethan wipes tears from his eyes as Ryan reaches the final paragraph. The handwriting becomes shakier there. Older. More fragile. If you are reading this, Duke has probably brought someone to the truth. He always was smarter than me. Ryan lowers the page slowly. The room grows very still. Ethan stares at the words his father wrote years ago. Then his gaze settles on Duke. The old dog lifts his head as though hearing his name. Ethan kneels beside him. His hand rests gently against the gray fur around Duke's neck. Neither speaks. They do not need to. Across the bottom of the final page sits a return address never mentioned in any letter. A small town in northern Arkansas. Beneath it is a date. 8 months ago. Ryan and Ethan exchange a look. For the first time since this journey began, they have something more valuable than clues. They have a place. And somewhere beyond that address, perhaps only a few hundred miles away, a man who never stopped loving his son. Morning arrives beneath a pale Arkansas sky. Ryan, Ethan, and Duke travel the final stretch of highway in near silence. The address leads them through miles of farmland where fences divide endless fields and wind moves softly through tall grass. The world feels quieter here. Slower. As though time itself has loosened its grip. Ethan sits beside the window, holding the last letter his father ever wrote. The edges have become worn from being unfolded too many times. Duke rests across the back seat. Age weighs heavily on him now. Every mile seems harder than the one before. Yet his eyes remain alert. Focused. Determined. Near noon they turn onto a gravel road lined with oak trees. At the far end stands a small white farmhouse. Nothing remarkable. Just a modest home with a porch swing and flower beds blooming beneath the summer sun. For several seconds nobody moves. Ethan simply stares. Ryan understands. Some distances are measured in miles. Others are measured in years. This one is both. Then the front door opens. An older man steps onto the porch. Gray hair. Lean frame. Weathered face. The same eyes from every photograph. He freezes instantly. Ethan forgets how to breathe. The years between them seem to rise like a wall. Neither knows how to cross it. Then Duke slowly climbs from the truck. The old dog takes one step. Then another. His legs tremble. His pace is slow. But he keeps moving toward the porch. The older man sees him and grips the railing for support. Emotion floods across his face. "Duke," he whispers. The sound barely carries across the yard. Yet the dog hears it. Duke's tail begins to move. The old pit bull continues forward until he reaches the bottom step. Daniel kneels despite the stiffness in his joints. Duke presses his head against the man's chest. Daniel wraps both arms around him and closes his eyes. For a moment, nobody speaks. The wind moves through the trees. Birds sing somewhere beyond the field. The porch swing creaks softly. Ethan watches tears roll down his father's face. Then Daniel looks up. Their eyes meet. Years of regret live inside that single glance. Years of misunderstanding. Years of missed birthdays, unanswered letters, and conversations that never happened. Daniel rises slowly. "I thought staying away would keep you safe," he says. Ethan shakes his head. "I spent years thinking you stopped loving me." Silence follows. Pain does not disappear in a moment. Neither does forgiveness. But sometimes truth opens a door that sorrow kept locked. Daniel steps forward. Ethan does the same. The distance finally disappears. Father and son embrace beneath the Arkansas sunlight while Duke remains between them, exactly where he has always been. Ryan stands quietly near the truck. He does not belong to their family. Yet somehow he was meant to witness this ending. Hours later they sit together on the porch sharing stories that should have been shared years ago. Laughter slowly replaces silence. Hope slowly replaces grief. As evening settles across the fields, Ryan prepares to leave. Before climbing into his truck, he notices something hanging beside the porch. An old length of chain. Rusted. Broken at one link. Daniel smiles when he sees Ryan looking at it. "I kept it all these years," he says. A reminder that some things are only strong until love proves stronger. Duke lies peacefully at their feet. No leash. No chain. No burden left to carry. The old dog closes his eyes while the people he saves sit together beneath the fading light. And as the sun disappears beyond the horizon, there is no miracle left to find. Because sometimes the miracle is simply this: a loyal heart refusing to give up until two lost souls finally find their way home.